So I can't remember if I've ever actually spoken about this before, but figured I might. Whilst I doing E-Train and Final Fantasy. It's an interesting topic, I was just reminded of it, and also with obviously the stuff happening in the UK. Again, sort of keeping this up is important. It's just got me thinking, like, how many other things have I been wrong about in my life? Because yeah, immigration was one of them, trans rights and gay rights were. There's quite a few different things, and it just got me thinking, like, what the hell, like, how wrong was I about other things? And one of the topics of all the things was actually religion. So, quite a few years ago, after I became vegan, I started to consume content related to obviously atheism, and myself sort of always being sort of agnostic because of my upbringing. I was exposed to Christianity and been to church, but I've also had the side where it's like, nah, neither exist. Not neither exist, but just Christianity, or God for that matter. So I've had different exposures and different strokes, obviously, for lack of a better term. And I was taught obviously very different things as a result. Obviously I was taught heaven and hell and had trauma around that, and almost actually took my own life because of it, because for some reason telling a child that they'll go to heaven if they do good after they die, like, it's so weird. And I literally remember standing there at my kitchen at my grandmother's house thinking, like, there's so many nice things about life, and if going to heaven meant that you would actually get to live the best life, then I want to be there sooner rather than later. So yeah, that literally was a motivation to literally want to go there, and I didn't know how to kill myself, so it wasn't like I would just pick up a knife and stab myself. It wasn't that simple. But at the time I was quite young and vulnerable, so I didn't know. So that's one of the dangers of religion that people don't really consider. It's like these false beliefs can end up having complete backlash, and what backlash is it? I don't know what the term is. It's like I've been saying. I don't even know the term for that. Repercussions? I'm not sure. Something like that. So that was one of the issues. Yeah, frustratingly though, it doesn't seem like anyone cares, and the trauma of knowing that hell is a horrible place was bad enough that it literally forced me to behave. Even with knowing that there's a possibility God isn't real. So naturally I had more of a bias against religion than I ever did growing up, especially realising that it hasn't been proven, like, and all this time I've been told, like, I need to pray to obviously show my devotion to God and show that I'm a good Christian in that sense. I even did identify as Christian at one point. The only problem is that I didn't get any answer back. I was told that God would essentially answer back and answer my prayers, but that never happens. So yeah, like, what gives? Like, what's going on there? And it just led me to wonder, like, if God can't solve my problems, what's the point? Is there even a God? So that naturally just disproved the belief, because I was told that both as a child and as an adult. So what the hell? Just what? So yeah, I didn't have a good start with religion, to be honest. But during that time I was also taught crazy things like Islamophobia. It was a very early one, and basically it was labelled as a terrorist organisation sort of thing. Usual, really. And it was just on the basis that these were people of a different religion that weren't Christian, because obviously Christian was the one and true religion, as I was taught. So anything else that denied the fact was false, or went to contrary. So the A-train's distracted me, we went to the wrong place. Yeah, so that wasn't good growing up, and there were other things as well that are bad, like a bit of homophobia, a bit of transphobia. Sadly, that was a thing that I grew up with. But racism wasn't really one, and neither was ableism. I did feel like I wasn't listened to a lot, but still, there's a lot that I sort of grew up with that I realised was wrong. It's just saddening, because, like, I just want to live a normal life. I'm a fucking child at this point. Like, why the hell is this even being taught to me? I'm too young to even understand it, so what gives it? I don't really like it. So it's always been sort of dangerous to have these beliefs in that sense. Especially for a child too. Like, and also there isn't really anything stopping you from being taught hatred in that sense, like I was with phobias. So that could always spiral out of control, and luckily I didn't know any gay or trans people growing up, so yeah, it really didn't matter. So I don't know where else to start. Like, I had a mental health crisis, and this sort of is related. This was when I really started to pray and wish there was a God, because holy crap, I was struggling at the time. I was going through depression. I had another massive issue that required a lot of therapy. It was related to trauma that I had as well, and also I wanted to get rid of the trauma. It's not even as it sounds, but you can't. So it's always stuck with you, it's still stuck with me now. But religion, making prayers, and all that shit just didn't do anything. Like, it just didn't matter. And that's really the crazy thing. It's like, when I realised none of this was helping, I just didn't know where to go or what to do, and I wanted to believe, but nothing happened. So it's really heartbreaking. Myself being autistic and having learning difficulties as well only sort of adds to that. So yeah. So after that, it essentially became like, oh, I'm just going to be an atheist now. So it did sort of feel off to me when all this happened. I don't know what's going on. There's a player in the party who's not here. It's weird. Yeah. So eventually, obviously, I just stuck to myself and played games most of the time. That was the other thing. Like, I was accused a lot of essentially looking for pleasures in life to basically do that exactly. Like, the reason I'm atheist is because I want pleasure. That wasn't only an accusation from the people who obviously tried to preach that to me, preach religion. It was an accusation of many other sort of Christian people. And it's just frankly false, because fucking noise. Because that isn't something that people do. Like, they don't specifically become atheists just because they want, like, something from life, like, I don't know, sex, drugs, Well, it's not a thing. It doesn't exist. And you literally can't really pin it on that, because atheism itself is inherently linked to the lack of belief in a god. So it's nothing to do with religion in that sense, because religion is a separate thing. Religion can imply belief in God, but it isn't the belief in God. And that's something I realised at some point, and especially after going into like atheist communities as well. I realised there's so much more to this than meets the eye. Transformers. Sorry, that's a funny thing I just did. Yeah, like, that's the reality. You can literally be a deist, I think is the term, where you believe there is a god, but you don't prescribe to a religion. And that's really the problem with like religion in general. It's like, it's often like this, you have to prescribe to a religion to believe in a god. But that's false, again, because there's no such thing as like them like coexisting. A belief is a belief, and both happen to be beliefs themselves, but they are two separate things. So again, it just doesn't make sense when people say you need to be religious. Like, no, you don't. So yeah, around the time when I became vegan, there was a moment where I just looked into the atheistic community and started to get really into religion. And at the time I was also a bit like, okay, there are some truths to what I've been taught, such as the Islamophobia, because linking up like the things like the terrorist attacks to them was like, it seemed rational to me, because obviously the religion itself is preaching violence, and I do know it does fundamentally preach it as per like, the Quran and stuff, but what I didn't know back then was that was false. Essentially, it's down to the person who obviously executes it or not. It really depends. It's like, it's the same as like society's always been. But the media are also scaremongers as well, so that really conflated things. And sort of getting onto the actual final topic, but when I was also looking into atheistic stuff, I was learning all about other religions as well, and what they implied exactly. And yeah, I was getting well informed about this, like the writing and stuff, and essentially what each religious group has, and also what they correlate to. Like, there's a lot of Christian people who have never read the Bible, and there's a lot of Christian people who prescribe to right-wing ideology. That's unfortunately a fact, but it's fundamentally true. That is a thing, and there's no denying it. So it naturally began to make me think, as some of the videos were saying anyway, like religion is like, it's not exactly what it's made out to be. It is like an extremist thing. So that belief always sort of stuck with me, just because it was the only answer to these problems. And sort of being, I guess, naive in a sense, like, I think for all religion is like demonic in that sense, because if it didn't preach love, it preached hatred. So I kept going on that journey, and eventually I came across some, I'd say, dodgy YouTube channels. Definitely some truth to them, and some good content. But there are channels that weren't exactly respectful of religion, I'd say. And there are some YouTubers, unfortunately, who parade around them, which is odd. I do find it very odd. It does really suck that that even happened, and I sort of got into that rabbit hole. Because it meant that I was misinformed, and essentially what I was believing was what other people assumed to be the again like religion equals terrorists, like sort of rhetoric, without really any proper evidence, proper study. It's just like, oh yeah, they are. It's no like, oh the Bible says so. It's nothing like that. Um, so naturally that became a big problem. Um, yeah, so it's things distracting me. How are we here? In the right place. Um, yeah, so I got into that and it wasn't healthy exactly, and I got into the base as well because I was sort of into that at the time. It was sort of a way to challenge my own bias, and lo and behold, it was helping. I was being convinced of my own biases, but also I was hearing other perspectives, which are important to hear in a topic like that. Because you could always be wrong about something. I don't think anything's ever 100% correct. And no matter what, there's always probably going to be a mistake. But it's important to check that, because you never know. There could be something really obvious that you're missing, like, like a god doesn't exist. Are we sure about that? No, because it could be that we found proof of God, we never know. And someone can actually present it, like legitimate proof. Oh no, like God flashes a meme in front of your eyes saying of himself, itself. But yeah, you never know. That's why it's important. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on because someone at the door. Um, yeah, that is interesting. So eventually I got out of debates and stuff and started to essentially move on to critical thinking and learn how to apply that. I'll just probably at the same time actually now I think about it. Because I've pretty much known everything there was to know about certain debates, and yeah, like, not everyone is like willing to learn, and that fucking sucks. That always did sort of get me down a bit because it's like, what the hell? Why? But at some point, I also realised other things, and the most important thing that came out of it really was speaking to obviously the people who brought me up that way. Because like, how did I get doing there? I was looking. Anyway, yeah, but I asked and stuff, like, I challenged people. Um, challenge people on the ideas, and nobody can really convince me. There was one thing I found interesting, and that was apparently they'd taken religion to essentially mean a symbol of peace and love, which, holy shit, it is fascinating to know that. It's definitely refreshing to hear that, definitely a good thing. Although it's not perfect, there were definitely some problems I found in that, but it's still better than nothing. I think any time a community can essentially come around and essentially support one another, that's better than obviously being the opposite. Um, it's stressful when obviously you're like an agnostic atheist, and the assumption is again you just want some sort of pleasure in life. That's obviously a sin to some people's religion. It's not. It's obviously not true. It depends on what your heart is. I definitely are corrupt people, but I don't see myself as corrupt. And really, that's not for me to decide either. It's for other people to. A lot of these sort of pleasures don't really just interest me. I also think that's the other assumption. I forgot about this, but they assume that you can't address anything without religion, which is another dangerous belief. I've heard a lot about how essentially like ex-drug addicts and even like I think even like ex-sex offenders were in these like churches just attending, and they turned their life around supposedly because of it, because of both the religion and the community. I've also met people who were atheist and attended church communities essentially just to have a sense of it, a sense of community, and you don't really need to prescribe to a religion. You just need to get along with people and essentially rely on them for support. Yeah, there's definitely better, and that's sort of like an awakening moment for me in the sense that this anti-religious stuff just didn't add up, and it wasn't something that it was addressing. It's essentially the same rhetoric that we're seeing now with like racism in the UK. It's like a couple of bad people painting them all, which is just false. Um, and yeah, like the anti-religion was just saying the same thing, but about religious people. They're blaming it for like the obviously like the dodgy priests and stuff. Like that seems to be very common for some reason, but no surprise. But again, the problem there is that it's the people you put there. Like, I don't know if these were even like family men or anything, but even then, they tend to be older people and they're just really dodgy. So the problem doesn't lie in religion necessarily. Of course, the situation wouldn't happen if it weren't for it, but again, it's down to the person. And anyone can do that, really, unfortunately. It only takes a specific situation where, unfortunately, one or two people get isolated and suddenly it turns into a molestation case. It's not difficult to figure out. And preventing those situations from happening is important. That's what parents need to know about this. That isn't necessarily religion doing it. I think when religion is one of the disgusting things, always sort of remember when the religion is teaching you to forgive and forget, that sort of thing. It's like, oh boy, like what the fuck? I was just consider that complicit because you can forgive and forget someone if they've changed. But trying to do that to someone who's already committed a crime and is still committing it, that's just wrong. Again, it's all down to the person. I'll say that the mother said that of all things actually about their child who was molested. I remember it's like, I think the child was like traumatised about it because it's like, what the fuck do you do? How do you get out of this situation? And how do you still have a belief in God after that? How do you even follow the religion? Let then look up to your own parents. That's sort of the crazy thing as well. A lot of people will try to justify it. It's just sickening. But I guess this ties into why I'm sort of no longer anti-religious. It's more to do with the fact that people can now sort of hold beliefs and not prescribe to the same bullshit that others have, of the older generation particularly. Um, yeah, like it's literally as simple as like people now who are quote unquote woke are changing religions for the better. They're doing it in a way where they can accept people and essentially what they stand for, they respect beliefs and stuff. That's why you have Muslim people everywhere, that's why you have Christian people everywhere. And really the only rule that people need to know and understand and respect is like everyone's different. And I think you just need to respect that because you won't get along otherwise. It's one of the common things I've seen with progressive spaces as well. Progressive people, for that matter. There's always this talk about respecting other people, even if you have disagreements. But the same can't be said for the people who don't want progress. I think that's because those of us who want progress have realised that we do want positive change. We want people to feel safe and be safe, regardless of their beliefs. The thing is something that we don't want. It's inherently true, but something as trivial as like religion, believing there's a god or something, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't impact anyone's life fundamentally. There's obviously something like justifying child exploitation. That's bad. And obviously, we will sort of police that and show our dislike towards it, because that's not progress. It's regress. And yeah, like some of the things with like Islamophobia, like seeing terrorist organisations, it's like, yeah, I've seen the ISIS videos, I've seen people get killed. I've seen people get killed by other terrorist organisations motivated by religion, or even just like gangs. Like, there's so many things I've seen. And I come out of that not necessarily hating the groups, but the people. The people who do this sort of thing. Because at the end of the day, that's who it is. Someone who, I don't know if it's a term, but instigates the action, and obviously those who enforce it as well. But they're not the same as these other people we know. Like, ISIS is not the same as Muslim people that we see every day on the street. The Conservatives, like in the US and maybe here actually, are not the same as Christians. Like, there's all different walks of life, and that's my point here. And I think there's often this perception of religion as being a hate group, but that's not actually true. It's the people who make hate groups and also give religion a bad name. And yeah, like, people do conveniently ignore the writing because there's obviously a good reason to do that. To obviously go against it. Again, like, the Bible brings up slavery a lot. The Qatar, I think, brings up killing people who don't believe in your religion. But a lot of people now are realising that you don't have to do that to get somewhere in life, to even convince people. Doing that would just turn people against you. And so people are making those changes, and that's generally great. That's why we can get along with those people. So, yeah, I think I've pretty much said everything I can. It's about equality, not division. Like, why the hell are we dividing people based on religious beliefs? The only reason we should divide people is based on, obviously, if their belief is dangerous to everyone else. So, yeah, it all comes down to the person. Again, it's the same as what you see in, like, the UK now. Just because you see a few racists doesn't mean everyone is. Unfortunately, we've seen people push back against this, but at the same time, there aren't many people that are, and it's sad. And I see this with, like, even women's groups, for example. There's a lot of terrible men out there, and they keep stalking women for some reason. It's just so fucking creepy, and as a guy myself, I feel ashamed because these men are just giving us a bad name, and just like, you people are fucking sick. Like, I don't even want to know these guys. It's that simple. To objectify women or even just see them in a different way to essentially lead to stalking them and even something more malicious. It's just horrific. And like, I can't tolerate that. That's why I speak out against it. And that's why I want to see change as well. I want to see change in the attitude. But again, it's like, down to the person. It's never really about the specific group, it's about the person. So yeah. But yeah, like one man isn't every man. Simple as that, and the same with like trans people, gay people, everyone. And I've had experiences with most of these sort of things. Like I've had bad experiences with gay people, I've had bad experiences with trans people. It just happens. But again, one person of them, a few, isn't everyone. And even with like trauma that I've had, it's like that's doubly true. So yeah, it's a matter of being reasonable and being rational about this rather than scaremongering and fearmongering about it. Ironically, news articles will probably report on something religious like a terrorist attack, like one that's supposedly motivated by religion. But they neglect to mention that people are just sick in the head, and it's not actually related to religion. It's just people who don't use any sort of thought to think, oh, this is wrong. That's just very sick people who just don't think about that sort of thing. This all reminds me of this topic I just saw recently about how there are people in the Israeli military who are committing suicide because they can't sleep at night because they kill children. So it's like, yeah, no fucking surprise, they deserve it. And hopefully people wise up to realise that war crimes are just never a good thing and never tolerable. They don't do anything for anyone. So, yeah, pretty much rest my case there. Also, like, one Israeli again, it's like not every Israeli, so I'll put that out there. So, thanks for listening. See everyone another time.